Judge, as a retired New York City police officer, part of the governor's budget is to basically, with grand jury investigations and stuff, treat police officers differently than they would anybody else that was subject to a grand jury investigation. Now, grand juries have been around since, they've evolved over time. They've found problems with it from England in the 12th century, moving all the way up to modern day times. And the monarchs back then interjected themselves into the grand jury process.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, just
The monarchs, the kings. And this is how it started to evolve. And they used it to punish their enemies. They politicized the process. And then what happened was when, in America, we adopted the grand jury system. It was like 1635. And one of the things we did was take the king's influence out of the grand jury. And what we have now is the governor's looking at appointing his own person to review grand jury testimony, grand jury evidence, and we don't know who this person's going to be. It's going to be a political appointment. There's a reason for secrecy on the grand jury. So one of the things they wanted to protect centuries ago was to prevent witnesses from being tampered with. And I mean, throughout the centuries, secrecy was very important. With the governor, you see problems with what he's proposing here, and I just see it as he's corrupting, okay, the grand jury process. I don't think the governor's trying to put himself in the position of a king or a monarch where he can influence what the grand jury's rulings are. Now, the court, over the years, has made tough decisions that politically were maybe not, good for them, but their role is to make sure it's the right decision, it's the fair decision, no matter what the public outcry is. Do you have any opinions on this quickly? Because I'm limited to 4 minutes and 26 seconds.
Okay, Assemblyman Graf. Well, let me just quickly tell you what I think. There's a number of proposals with regard to the grand jury and grand jury reform. And I think those proposals need the legislatures, both the Senate and the Assembly, to take the good hard look, because it's all about public trust and confidence in our system. And what's the perfect solution? I don't think it's for me to say. The governor's proposal, the governor has a thoughtful proposal, the chief judge has a thoughtful proposal, there's been other proposals mentioned by the District Attorneys Association and others that have come to us. Why I think the chief judge felt that it was incumbent upon him in the state of the judiciary to speak about it, because it was a core issue with regard to the judiciary's mission of trust and confidence in our system. But I think it's up to you and up to the Senate and the Assembly now to wrestle with what is the proper proposal. I don't quite know what that is.
Yeah, with that, Judge, I mean, one of the chief judge, what he talked about was putting judges in the grand jury.
Right.
Right. Through the evolution of the grand jury process, they actually did have judges at one point, and they removed the judges from the grand jury process, okay, because they didn't want undue influence. They didn't want a political outcome on this. I mean, the purpose of it, you go all the way back to US v. Amazon Industrial Chemical Corp., and it was there to protect people from a oppressive government. So, I mean, people should be looking at the history and the evolution of the grand jury process, and they shouldn't be putting us back into this 12th century. I mean, would you agree with that?
Well, what I do agree with is that I do agree that there is a great need for criminal justice reform. Do I agree that I know all the answers and I could give you the perfect answer of what should be done here this morning? No, I do not. But I know that people of goodwill, very smart, intelligent, focused individuals like the chief judge, like the governor, And I am sure, like many of the senators and assemblymen, are taking a good hard look at this issue and want to make sure that a system that dates back to, ancient England, make sure that that system works. And it still works in these days, in these times in which we're living in New York and throughout the country.
Well, wouldn't you agree that the grand jury system as we have it now works really well?
I agree that there's need for criminal justice reform in the area of juvenile justice and grand jury reform. That's how I feel. That's my personally held belief. Whether it be with regard to disclosure, just to ensure that there is public trust and confidence in our system.
Okay, well, I have a real problem with the governor saying he wants to appoint a political appointee.
I could understand you may have a problem with that. I can understand many members may have a problem with other proposals as well. But I think this is a year, my friends, that criminal justice reform must be addressed in the Senate and the Assembly.
Thank you, Judge.
You're welcome.